In two previous lessons, when I spoke about the letter A and I gave you several examples, I showed you the irregular verb andar. Andar means to go or to walk, right? Andar can be used for any of these two, with any of those two meanings, okay? To go or to walk. However, in Spanish, there is a specific verb for saying to walk, and there is a specific verb for to go, right? To go in Spanish we say ir, and to walk is caminar, right? So, why do we have this verb andar, which means these two things? I really do not know, but the fact is that it exists and it is used in Spanish, right? Where it is very much used more than in other Spanish-speaking countries is in Argentina and Uruguay, right? I'm from Uruguay, and the verb andar is used also as an auxiliary verb for some situations and cases that I won't doesn't make any sense to explain them here, because that's very much local to those two countries only, right? But we will see the conjugation of the irregular verb andar, right? To go or to walk. So, conjugación del verbo andar, conjugation of the verb andar. We will see present tense, simple past, future. This is the Spanish simple future. This is the other kind of future. For example, when we say I am going to eat, I am going to study, I am going to sit down, right? That other kind of future, that alternative future is this one here, and it's very, very much used in Spanish, right? And I want to introduce it to you because I believe this one will be much easier for you to remember and for you to use, since this one is more similar to English, right? Since the English doesn't have a future conjugation like the Spanish, where the verb changes to a conjugation of the future, okay? We will see the gerundio, that is the present continuous, and the imperative for affirmative and negative, right? So let's begin with the present tense. We say, here, I was forgetting this. The root of the verb is, in this case, is and, right? So we had said that the root of the verb is what remains once we strip out the ending, right? So what is the ending? The ending of any Spanish verb are those two last letters that determines whether the verb belongs to the group of verbs that end in ar, the group of verbs that end in er, or the group of verbs that end in ir, okay? We have three groups of verbs in Spanish. The group that ends in ar or ar is the biggest of the verbs and the one that has less irregulars, right? So once we strip out the ending, we remain with what we call the root of the verb. For conjugating, we keep the root of the verb and then we add an ending, right? In this case, since andar is an irregular verb, there can be some differences with the ending that we use for conjugating. But andar is mainly irregular for the past tense, okay? So for the rest, you won't see, I think, any irregularities, okay? Let's begin with the future, with the present tense. Yo ando, tú andas, él anda, or ella anda. Nosotros andamos, vosotros andáis, ustedes andan, ellos andan, okay? Now for the simple past, pasado, we say, yo anduve. Here you can see there is an irregularity, because if this were a regular verb, the past would be yo andé, right? Andé. Tú andaste. Él andó. right? However, this is an irregular verb, so in the past it changes quite a bit for all the subject pronouns, right? We say yo anduve, and this actually is a very typical mistake for children, right? So children always mess up this verb when they are learning how to speak, because children through intuition they learn that they get the pattern for conjugating the verbs, right? And the pattern they always get is the regular pattern, right? So that they absorb through intuition, and then they conjugate all the verbs as if they were regular verbs, right? And there's always a group of irregular verbs that children mess up and they conjugate it as if it were regular, right? And in Spanish, the verb andar is one of those. So we say in the past, yo anduve, tú anduviste, él anduvo, nosotros anduvimos, vosotros anduvisteis, ustedes anduvieron, and ellos anduvieron. Now for the future, let's begin with simple future, right? We say, here you can see it's regular, right? There is no irregularity here in this tense. Yo andaré, tú andarás, él andará, nosotros andaremos, vosotros andaréis, ustedes andarán, and ellos andarán. And here I missed the tilde, right? Why? If we don't add the tilde, here this would be read andaran, right? With the accent in this syllable. However, the accent should go in the last syllable, andaran, right? So we need a tilde here. Now, gerundio, or present continuous. Yo estoy andando. Tú estás andando. Él está andando. Nosotros estamos andando. Vosotros estáis andando. Ustedes están andando. And ellos están andando. You can see that the ending for the gerundio is ando here, right? Ando, 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 right? We take the root of the verb and we add ando, right? This is for all the verbs that end in AR. The other verbs add the ending endo. Instead of an A here, it is an E. Now let's see the imperative. Let's begin with imperative for affirmative and imperative for negative. Anda tú. Ande él, or ande ella. Andemos nosotros. Andad vosotros. Anden ustedes, and anden ellos. So why do we have an imperative for affirmative and an imperative for negative? That's because there are two subject pronouns that have a different conjugation for the imperative, for affirmative and negative, right? These are tú and vosotros. That is the second person of the singular and the second person of the plural, right? The you and the you. You can see in the negative we say no andes, don't go or don't walk. No andes, tú. Or no ande él. No andemos nosotros. No andéis vosotros. No anden ellos, and no anden ustedes. Or no anden ustedes, no anden ellos. You can see that here ande and ande. Andemos, andemos. Here it remains, here remains the same. Anden, 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 anden. But where it changes, where the conjugation changes